Hi, I'm Joost Baars, and you're watching Prepfully's Google Product Manager Interview Guide. Product management is a fast-growing job that's becoming more and more important in top tech companies. Being a relatively recently defined role, the exact definition is something a lot of companies come up with based on their unique situations and needs. The role itself is something that covers a wide array of responsibilities. Given the diversity of what the role entails, companies often come up with custom processes to interview candidates and follow a set of guiding principles when filtering candidates and deciding who to hire. Today, I'm going to be diving into what Google's product manager interview process looks like. At the end of this video, you should have a good understanding of what the process is, what interviewers filter for, and a lot of tips on how to prepare yourself for this. Let's start. In a nutshell, there are 4 steps in Google's PM hiring process. 1. Recruiter phone interview. 2. Phone interview with a PM. 3. On-site interviews with PMs. And 4. Finally, the team matching interviews. Let's talk about step 1 first. This is the recruiter phone interview. It usually happens over the phone or online and takes about 25 minutes. And your resume needs to have passed the filters to be invited for this. In this round, the recruiter is primarily trying to assess your high-level experiential and cultural fit at Google, as well as your contribution in your previous role. Some tips for getting through this round. Be super familiar with your past work. Make sure you have a project you can talk about from each of your previous roles. Organize your thoughts in advance around topics like what your contribution was, how things went, and what you could have done better. 2. Keep your answers short and crisp. 3. Have a clear reason for why you think you can succeed at Google. 4. This round often starts with the old favorite, tell me about yourself, so it's useful to have a nice intro ready to roll with. Next up is step 2, the phone interview with a PM. This is usually just one round, but if they're on the fence about you, it's possible you could be invited for a follow-up. There's a couple of things your interviewer is assessing. Your past experience and your contribution to your team's success as a PM, your ability to think of product improvements on the fly, and your ability to break down ideas into easily implementable steps. Some tips to crack this round. 1. The interviewer will often ask for a product you've used recently and then dig into what you like and what you'd improve. Think of a few products beforehand so you don't get caught off guard. 2. Google loves a moonshot idea. It's cliched, but try to have at least one suggestion that is big and innovative for whatever product you are discussing. To balance this out, also think about quick wins and rapid product iterations you could execute for the same product. 3. Be extremely familiar with your previous company and their entire product line, including those you might not have worked on yourself. You'll be expected to have a product manager's opinion on the whole range of products. To give you an idea of the sort of questions that usually come up, here are 2 examples. 1. Tell me a digital product you use nearly every day. How would you go about building a competitor to it? 2. Tell me about the last product you were involved in managing. What would you do differently if you would have had infinite resources? And what process would you follow if you suddenly saw a drop in this product's usage? The third and hardest step is the set of on-site interviews. There are 4 to 5 rounds, each of about 45 minutes. And you only get invited to this if you pass the phone round. The goal of these interviews is to assess you across an array of product skills. Your interviewers will wear different hats to test you across different themes. 1. There will be at least 1, usually 2 interviewers wearing the product design or product strategy hats. They are testing your core product skills. Strategy, ideation, prioritization, delivery focus, product design, breaking ideas down into MVP steps, establishing metrics for success, and how you iterate. Some interviewers will wear the analytical hat. They'll ask estimation questions and market sizing questions, and see how well you can make assessments with ambiguous or inaccurate data. There will be at least 1 interviewer who wears the creative hat. They'll ask you questions which really stretch your imagination, and occasionally invite you to think about futuristic and non-existent technologies. Finally, and this is an important but unique quirk to Google, There will always be one interviewer wearing the technical hat. They'll usually ask system design questions. The purpose is to test your technical fundamentals and make sure you can hold a sensible discussion with your engineers. A couple of tips to help you through this critical interview stage. 1. These interviews are supposed to be conversations. It's important to use the first few minutes to clarify topics and scope the question. 2. Approach product questions in a structured manner. Work your way from the customer problem to possible solutions, to prioritization before execution, so you can demonstrate your competence across the whole gamut of product skills. 3. Form an opinion in advance about major Google products. Think about what works well, where you see room for improvement, the business model under which they operate, and who the major players are in that space. 4. Do the same for emerging technologies, for instance about AR, VR, artificial intelligence, and blockchain tech. Think about use cases for them which can tie them to Google, and how you feel these technologies will evolve over the next 5 to 10 years. 5. For the technical interview, brush up on basic tech concepts and make sure you're ready for the "how would you scale this to 1 billion users" follow-up from your interviewer. 6. Moonshot ideas will be super important in most of these rounds. So think big and think world-changing. Some questions that have been reported recently by Google candidates on Prepfully are: 1. You have to create a photo upload service. How would you design the technical architecture? 2. How would you improve Google Maps for advertisers? 3. How would you put together a 10-year strategy for Netflix? The first of these questions was a technical hat question. The last two are product questions. We've got some recorded mock interviews where these questions are answered, and these candidates received strong higher ratings from their experts. So there's some great content there, which we've linked to. What's important to remember is that in questions like this, there's always supposed to be a back and forth between you and the interviewer. The interview will move across a range of topics, and it's important that you demonstrate skills across all of them. To get some real-world practice with a Google PM, you can always book a mock interview on Prepfully. Stage 4. This is the last and final step. These are on-site discussions or calls with hiring teams to match you with one where you'd be a good fit. This only happens for candidates who have already received a hiring package. Make sure you ask lots of questions, so you set yourself up for success in a team that actually works for you. That's all for this guide then. In a nutshell, 4 steps to the Google PM interview. The recruiter round is all about the basics. The phone interview covers an array of product skills, while the on-site digs deep into each of those product themes before the matching round, where you figure out which team is the best fit for you. We really hope you found this useful. This was Joost. See you next time at Prepfully.